What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and we're back to Cyber format, held in September 2005 using the GOAT format ban list, along with cards going up to Cybernetic Revolution, which includes things like Cyber Dragon and the Cyber Dragon fusions, as well as Xarian Universe. So, I've covered a lot of this format on the channel in the past, and this is going to be my last, well, not my last Cyber video, but my last Cyber video featuring a deck that I could see people playing. I will be featuring one more Cyber video featuring a secret deck, which, it's not going to be good, but it will be something, and I think it's worth showing in the format. But this will be my last deck that I actually feel like, you'd run into people playing this a fair bit. And this is a sort of dragon deck. So basically, the goal of this deck is to abuse Dragon's Mirror, which is very similar to Miracle Fusion, which was in the Elemental Heroes build that I showed off for this format. This instead, though, says you can fuse summon one Dragon Fusion monster by banishing fusion materials from your field or graveyard. So it's basically the exact same thing as Miracle Fusion. But here, you can bring out a dragon. So what dragons are there to go into? Now, the big one that you want to go into is probably King Dragoon. King Dragoon is a level 7 dragon fusion monster that's made with Lord of D and Divine Dragon Ragnarok that says your opponent cannot target dragon monster with card effect. Once per turn, you can spell summon one dragon monster from your hand. So this card is very annoying to deal with because a lot of the removal in this format is target based. Now, that's not entirely all of the removal. There's things like Torrential Tribute and Mirror Force, as well as Tribe Infecting Virus and things like that. But a lot of the format does revolve around target based removal. So the idea is if you stick this card, it's really annoying for your opponent to deal with, and you can often just solo them with this card alone. I think in practice, the deck I built has a bit of a difficult time doing that. Like, you can generally get into King Dragoon over the course of the match, but the issue is, like, after you have King Dragoon out, like, what do? Right? You need to close out the game somehow. I chose not to play Red Eyes Black Dragon in the deck, while you could go into things like Black Skull Dragon, using Red Eyes Dragon and a Dark Hex Shield Fusion if you wanted to. I felt like it was a bit too bricky. But maybe I should have included it just to have another dragon to bring out off of King Dragoon potentially. But the deck is already bricky enough, so I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I do think that I made some decisions here that could definitely be changed if you want to build this deck on your own. For instance, I went with Metamorphosis here as well as Scapegoats because I figure, Metamorphosis has a nice synergy with the King Dragoon as well, where if you do need to go into Last Warrior from Another Planet, you can do that pretty easily. And Last Warrior from Another Planet is a card that can potentially solo certain decks. So I liked the idea of using Metamorphosis to go into Last Warrior off of a King Dragoon after I've summoned that out. And also Metamorphosis pairs with these Scapegoats, which you can use for defense while you're waiting to get your combo together with the Dragon Mirror. I think in hindsight, this might have been a bit too cope, and you maybe don't have the resources to actually fully do this as much as you'd like, but it is something you could potentially do if you wanted to. I'm also playing the full suite of discard traps, basically just like in the hero episode. I'm planning on pitching the fusion materials from hand and then popping things or, returning things to the top of the deck. But I think in hindsight, like for this deck specifically, you don't have the bubble mans to draw you back into more things if you're doing really badly. So it is just a little bit worse, I think, to do this sort of strategy. You wind up low resource a lot of the time. And while you can sit on like Dragoon for a while, again, if you're low resource and you've just got Dragoon, Dragoon can't necessarily kill your opponent that quickly. And eventually they will be able to have ways to out it like Mirror Force or TT. So I think in hindsight, this wasn't the direction to go with the deck. I think there's other things you could do with this here. Maybe go more in on the Red Eyes just so that way you get another dragon out off the Dragoon and then can beat in further. But this was how I decided to build the deck. So it's the deck that I have the games in for this video. So let's dive into the card by card. I've already talked a lot about this deck, but basically some other things about it. We've got Triple Divine Dragon Ragnarok. I chose to keep this as opposed to the Lord of D, because Lord of D is a bit weaker, 1500 attack, better than 1200 attack. Also, Lord of D's effect doesn't really come up that often if you don't already have Dragoon out, and Dragoon already prevents targeting. So I figured that the Divine Dragon Ragnarok was a little bit better here. And also we're playing Dark Hex Shield Fusion because sometimes you can just summon this out, tribute it and Divine Dragon Ragnarok to bring out a King Dragoon that way. Whereas if you went the Light Hex Shield Fusion and Lord D, you couldn't do that because, its effect only brings out a Dark Fusion monster, and the Light Hex Shield Fusion brings out a Light Fusion monster, of which the King Dragoon is not one. Now, you could potentially play the Light Hex Shield Fusions in addition to Cyber Dragons in the main. That would beef up the monster count in the deck. Also, it would allow you to go into things like Cyber Twin Dragon, which is, of course, very, very good. And also, Light Hexfield Fusion still serves as a fusion substitute monster for your fusion plays. So you could realistically just try and go into Dragoon off of Dragon's Mirror alone and have the Light Hexfield Fusion there to pair with these Cyber Dragons, which would probably be in the main deck in that version. I think that version would be a little bit better, but I haven't tested it, so I can't say for sure. But that might be a better move to do in the future. But there are some neat things you can do with Dark Hexfield Fusion outside of just hard tributing for Dragoon. You can also go into Sandwich potentially, because we are playing Sangan in this deck. So you can potentially tribute both for a Sandwich. You don't often want to do that, but it can come up sometimes. We've also got a Morphing Dart here to replenish our hand, because we will likely go low resource a fair bit of the time. We got to Break the Magical Warrior to pop an opponent's card. And we've also got Sinister Serpent for our discard traps. And for playing Sinister, we're playing the Tribe as well. And also we're playing a BLS here because we are playing Lights and Darks. And this is just another boss monster to bring out that you can banish, Light and Dark for. And this card also solos. So I think that's a pretty decent monster line. Again, it's a bit light on monsters, so you can have a tough time finishing your opponent after the Dragoon. But my idea behind building this version of the deck was that, once you get Dragoon out on the field, you're probably winning anyways, which is probably a bit of a flawed idea for the deck. But anyways, for the other cards here, we get card destruction to try and draw deeper into our fusion materials. If we're discarding things like Ragnarok and Hexials to draw into things like Dragon Mirror, that's ideal. So that's why we have the card destruction here. We get Duo as well to rip cards out of our opponent's hand, along with Graceful and Pot, the other two members of the Trinity. We get Triple Dragon's Mirror to go into Dragoon. We've got a Heavy Storm here and an MST to clear away their back row. We got Triple Meta, as I mentioned, Triple Scapegoat as well. A Pre-Mat to bring back our cards. We've got a Snatch Steal as well to take control of our opponent's stuff. For the trap lineup, we got a Call of the Haunted, a Mirror Force, triple Phoenix Blooming Blast, triple Raigeki Break, a Ring of Destruction ATT, and one Trap Dust Shoot. You could potentially play more than one Trap Dust Shoot, just in case you do go first, and also it does have value later in the game as well. But I figured this deck was already bricky enough. I didn't want to brick necessarily on multiple Dust Shoots if my opponent didn't have enough cards in hand. But, honestly, bricking on this isn't as bad if you get discard trap set, because you can just pitch one to pop something. So, realistically, maybe I should have played more of these in the main. But, we got other two in the side here for when we know we're going first, at least. For the other side deck cards, we got the Red Eyes Black Dragon, just here to experiment with if I wanted to bring them in to go into, Black Skull Dragon at some point. That's something I could do. We got the Triple Sidra here. I found myself bringing these in a lot because they're more aggressive pressure here, which this deck sorely needs. We got a DD Warrior Lady to banish our opponent's stuff. We've got a Jinzo here to shut off their traps, and as well as Triple Decree to shut off their traps. We got a Lightning Vortex here to deal with boards that just set up a bunch of Scapegoat tokens. We've got Ceasefire here to deal with the focus strategies. Fusion deck is pretty much the same sort of fusion deck that you'd see in any other Cyber format deck, because again, fusion deck isn't limited in this format, so you can play as many of these fusions as you want. I'm only playing 2 Dragoon here because I figured, we're probably not going into this 3 times over the course of a match. But you do have access to that 3rd Dragoon because, again, the Fusion deck is unlimited in this format. But you could definitely play, a 3rd Dragoon here over, one of the Restrict. I figured we'd be going to Restrict more often with the metas than the Dragoon. But, again, you can sort of adjust these ratios as you want. And if you do need one of these cards in a game itself, you can always proc it in. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Let's dive into some games and see how this deck actually plays. Okay, we got our first match against Dump Truck here, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're going to dive into the game here, and we will indeed be going first. That's pretty good. And this hand is, we got Duo. That's something. But, yeah, we don't really have the material to support the Double Wing Blast in hand, but we're just going to go for Duo, pitch 2. We're going to set a Scapegoat, a Wing Blast, and then just pass back to them. We're keeping the Ragnarok in hand because we don't want to play into side replays on their part. Also, it's a good pitch off the Wind Blast because then it gets set up in grave for Dragon's Mirror. So that's why I do this play. We've also got Scapegoat in case they've got Heavy. So they are going to go for a Heavy right away. Yeah, we got the Goat here, so at least we get some value off that. And while we do lose our other Wind Blast, we've got another in hand, so it's not terrible. They're going to bring out a Tomato, get rid of one of the tokens, pass back to us. We're just going to bring out a Ragnarok attack over the Tomato. We've got the Mirror Force and the Wind Blast that we can both set in case they do go for a Stein play next turn. Looks like they're just going to go for a Sangan instead. We're going to set the Wind Blast and the Mirror Force, pass back to them. They're just going to switch to Sangan defense, set another pass back to us. We draw a Heavy, which is kind of useless to us now. But we could always pitch it for Wind Blast if we want to. We're just going to attack over the set with the Ragnarok. That's going to be a Spy. They're going to bring in another Spy. And now we're going to pass back to them. They are going to bring out a Breaker. And we got to decide about whether we want to just, Wind Blast this right away. If we do that, then it doesn't really help because then they just get out Breaker next turn. And Breaker pops our Mirror Force either way. Or we could let the Breaker just pop one in the back row. If it doesn't pop the Mirror Force, then we win that 50-50. So I feel like we kind of have to let this go because, again, if we just, put the breaker back on top, they're going to bring it out next turn. So it doesn't do anything here. So they're going to pop our Mirror Force. They do indeed pop the right one. That is very unfortunate for us. But, I mean, it's ultimately fine. We still got 2 GOAT tokens. We got the Wind Blast in reserve. So that's something. We draw Snatch Steal. Not really that useful for us on this board. We're going to set the pre-mat, pass back to them. If they pop the pre-mat, it would have gotten popped anyways. And I kind of want to bait out more Spell and Trap removal. But they're going to get in for 1,600 here. Drop us below 5,000. They're going to pass back to us. We draw a BLS. We've got a Light Engrave. We need that Dark Engrave for that. But that'll be pretty good if it actually goes through. We're going to snatch the Spy just to crash the Spies together. Clear both of them. And then main 2 just pass back to them. They're going to attack in for 2,600 again. We could potentially go for a Wind Blast here, pitching the Heavy to do something here to stave off some damage. But, again, that's really awkward because if we send back the Breaker, then they just get it back next turn, pop our other card here. If we send back the Sangam, that's not saving us much damage. So I don't really want to do that. So I just take the full 26 here. This is just a really awkward spot for us to be in. And we draw Meta, which is not going to be helpful here. We can do something, though. So that is indeed what we'll do. And we're going to go for a Wind Blast, target that back row. So that way, hopefully it doesn't do anything. We're going to go for a pre-mat here, bring back the Ragnarok. Then we're going to meta it away for a Darkfire Dragon. Or not a Darkfire. Well, yeah, a Darkfire Dragon. But we don't have that in the Fusion deck itself. So we have to proxy it in. So we're just bringing out a Cyber End here. We tell our opponent that we're proxying it for Darkfire Dragon, which is a level 4 Dark Dragon monster. 1,500 attack. We're going to crash into the Breaker here. And then we're going to bring out a BLS off that. So, yeah, it's not ideal. It is what it is. We banished the Sangan. Maybe we should have kept the Wind Blast set here, just in case. But, I didn't want to... I didn't want that back row to stop this play, because if we stop that play, then we just lose the game entirely. So I felt like Wind Blasting the back row was the best move, but as we see here, it doesn't really actually do anything here because they had the Tribe either way. So yeah, call wouldn't have helped here. Yeah, it wouldn't have done anything. So it didn't really matter. They go for Tribe anyways. They pitch a card and it's just on to game 2. So yeah, the game I think that game really shows one of the flaws of this deck where, if you don't get things started and you just draw your discard traps without anything to support it, it can be really bad. This deck should probably be playing more monsters. But, we're going second. We bring in some Dust Shoots. I forget exactly what we side out. I think we side out one of the Wind Blasts, but we draw the other 2. We're just going to set a full 4 because I'm okay, we got this double Dust Shoot here. We've got the Wind Blast. We've got the Meta. So, yeah. Or no, we just got one... we got Meta. Yeah, no, we got double Dust Shoot. Yeah. I'm forgetting exactly what happened just from moment to moment. So that's how it goes sometimes. We're going to go for a Dust Shoot here. We're going to send back the Mobius. See that they've got a Tomato, a Tribe, a TT, a Duo, and a Snatch. So they're going to go for a Duo here, rip out our last 2 remaining cards there. Quite unfortunate. We maybe should have sent something not the Mobius, but I didn't want them to pop 2 more of our back row here. But I don't know. I figured we also had Dust Shoot for other things. We could have used the other Dust Shoot on that hand, but it wasn't really that threatening of a hand to us. And I want to save the Dust Shoot till after we Morphing Jar. So I figured it would be fine there. They're going to set 2 in addition to the set card there. We're going to set the Wind Blast, flip up the Morphing Jar. Each of us will draw 5. And now we can potentially Dust Shoot them next turn. This is a very interesting hand because we do have Hexfield Fusion. We've got Ragnarok. We could potentially go for a big play here. We could go for actually we can't activate the Wind Blast. We set this turn, so we can't do that. But we could Wind Blast, pitch the Dark Hexfield or the Ragnarok to send back one of their cards here, and then we could potentially, summon out the Hexfield or the Divine Dragon, meta that away, get a Light and Dark Engrave for BLS, or we could go for Dragon's Mirror. Either one would be pretty good. So there's a couple of different options here. I just decide to set the Scapegoat pass because I feel like Scapegoat plus meta is a little bit better than going for the all-in play here, especially since we know that they've got TT, so we don't want to play the Dragoon into the TT. We're going to go for the Dust Shoot here, get a peek at their hand now, see that they've got a Dust Shoot of their own. They've got Breaker, Exile, Spy, Mobius, and Sidra. That is a bit scary. We will send... It's a bit of a tricky choice here, but we send back the Breaker. And the reason I do this is because if they go for Mobius, a lot of our back row is chainable. And I'm much more fine using a Wind Blast on a Mobius than using a Wind Blast on a Breaker. So I figure we should be fine here. If they hit, I think Meta is the only card here that is not chainable. So if they hit the Meta, then that's rough. But if they don't hit meta, then we are feeling perfectly fine. They're going to snatch our Morphing Jar there, bring out the Mobius, and now they're going to pop these two. Both of them are chainable, so I feel good about that. We're going to go for Scapegoat and a Wind Blast. We're going to decide what to send back. We're going to send back the Tomato there instead of the Mobius, because we should be able to clear the Mobius on the following turn. So, I'm going to bring out those 4 tokens. They're going to get over 1. They're going to set another pass back to us. We draw a break, and then in draw phase with priority, we are going to go for Wind Blast here. Send back the unknown trap. We do know that trap, and we know it's the TT. Yeah, we know it's the TT because they set it from the first. So, yeah, we know that's the TT. We're going to send back that TT so we can go for a Dragoon play here, potentially. Or we're going to just go for a Thousand Eyes play instead. Yeah, I mean, I guess this still gets in for 24 and also does clear the Mobius. I don't think I necessarily needed to go for TT there. I think it's fine, though. It plays around Dust Shoot either way. So we're going to set this Red Geki break there. They're going to bring out Exiled, pop the Restrict. So I guess this does use up the Exiled, which is nice. They're going to bring out a side right here, attack over the token. Then they're going to set 1 pass back to us. We're going to draw into another Dragon's Mirror. Okay. We know that new set is the TT, so we can go for that. We're going to break the TT there, so now we can go for a Dragon's Mirror, bring out a King Dragoon. We pitch one of the Dragon's Mirrors because I feel like it's more likely to get the Graveyard set up for BLS than for another King Dragoon. So I'm just going to bring out that Dragoon, attack over their Sidra, and then pass back to them. They've got to deal with this Dragoon. It's a bit tough to deal with. I mean, Mirror Force will deal with it, but they have to draw into that. We know they're drawing a Tomato, or actually they drew that last turn, but either way, I feel like this is a pretty good position to be in. And even if they do clear this Dragoon, we do have BLS follow-up for later. We just need to get that Light Engrave for the BLS, but I feel like this is still pretty good. So we're going to attack into the Mystic Tomato. They are below Stein range, so I'm not afraid of them just steining something out here. They're going to bring out another Tomato. This does deck thing for them, which is annoying, but I feel like we got to be getting in damage here when we can. They're going to bring out Breaker. They're going to activate the Breaker, trying to pop our back row. It is a Scapegoat. This does lock up our zones, but I'm honestly fine doing this because Dragoon just kind of solos. So they're going to hit over 2 of our tokens there. Then they're going to pass back to us. We draw a meta. That's pretty good. We can go into a Thousand Eyes if we want to, but I don't necessarily want to given that I've got this Dragoon out and attacking. So I'm going to hit over the Breaker, deal 800 to them, and then pass back to them. They are going to switch the Tomato Defense, set another pass back to us. We draw Dark Hexfield Fusion, which is kind of neat, but not really much we can do with it right now. We got to think about exactly what to do here. We're going to set the Dark Hexfield Fusion, and then we're going to just pass back to them, not attacking into their set, because I want them to flip up whatever the set is. If it's a flip monster, that way we can attack into it with the Dragoon that way. They're going to set another pass back to us. We draw a Sangan here. We can do a pretty interesting play with the Hexfield Fusion and the Sangan, going to a Sandwich if we want to here. But I think I'm going to bide my time for one more turn, so I'm going to set that pass back to them. See what they do here. They're just going to pass back to us. And I make a fatal missequencing error here. I know about the Dust Shoot, but I'm like, okay, I can just go into the Sandwich here, set the duo, and then do stuff with that. But I forget that the Sangan search is mandatory, so, if I go for the Hexfield Fusion plus the Sangan first, then I have to search out with the Sangan here, so then buffing my hand up to 4. But I completely forgot about the Sangan search, so, yeah. And because the Sangan search happens first, we did have 4 cards in hand there, so they will be able to Dust Shoot away BLS, which is quite unfortunate. I kind of wanted that BLS for follow-up later. But it is what it is. Again, missequencing can happen, and it definitely was pretty bad for us. But yeah, we're just going to hit into one of the sets. It's a Serpent, so now we can feel comfortable just going for the duo now. Hitting a Wangu and a Sidra, I'm pretty happy with that. They're going to add back the Serpent there, and then they're just going to think about this for a sec. They're going to bring out an Abyss Soldier here. They're going to bounce back our Sandwich. That's perfectly fine because, they can't target our Dragoon, so Abyss Soldier's not out that. And we can get in for more damage here, so I'm fine with this. We draw a Serpent here. Serpent's okay. We can go into Thousand Eyes off that, so that's nice. We're going to attack over the Tomato, just maximize damage here. And they're going to bring out a Sangan. That's also perfectly fine. They're at 1,500 life, so they're dropping pretty low here. We're going to set the Serpent, pass back to them. And they're going to add back a Serpent of their own. So now they can bounce the set if they want to. I figured they would do that, so that's why I left it there for them. Now they're going to switch their Monster Defense, set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Ring, so that should just do it here, because they can't target our Dragoon with things like Book of Moon, but we can target our own Dragoon. So if we just ring our Dragoon, we just win the game that way. And yeah, we're just going to do that here, because there's nothing they can do to stop this. Like, there's no, quick effect, non-targeting way to clear the Dragoon from the field. So that should be the end of the game, and it is indeed. So we were able to grind that one out. See, once you get Dragoon on field, it can be very annoying for your opponent to deal with. So it can occasionally solo. And that's one of the big strengths of this deck. Just once you get Dragoon out, how did your opponent deal with it? They do have some ways to do it, but if you're playing, smartly, then you can potentially wait until those ways are sort of diminished, as happened last game. We draw a handful of spells and traps after they activate Cold Wave, so I'm just going to keep the entire hand. I could have set the Ragnarok, but I don't really think it's worth doing that because they could have plays that, do things to it. Like if they've got Zaborg, I don't want to play into Zaborg. So I'm just going to keep the Ragnarok in hand. I figure next turn we should have a pretty decent hand here. They're going to flip the Tomato, attack in for 14, get that through. And now they're just going to set one, pass back to us. We draw a Sidra, so that's pretty good. And we can just spell summon out that Sidra and go for a meta on the Sidra for a Dark Balter here. So hopefully we can negate that Tomato by attacking in here. Unfortunately, okay, that will go through. So not unfortunate at all. We're going to set a Dust Shoot and a Ring here. They're going to go for MST on the Dust Shoot. No, we wanted that. Ugh. Yeah, because we wanted the Dust Shoot to send back things like Sidra. But now it's a bit awkward if they do have a Sidra in hand, which they do indeed. So now they'll be able to try attacking over our Balter. We do have a Ring for that, so we'll be able to pop the Sidra. Deal 2100 to both players here. But it's a bit awkward after that. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw a Raigeki Break, which is pretty good. We're just going to attack him with the Balter. We can save the Ragnarok in hand for the break. They do have Ring for the Balter, though, so they'll be able to get in 2,000 damage on us. If we had summoned out the Ragnarok, we would have been able to get in 1,500 more. But we also would have been playing into, like, Mirror Force, so I feel fine just doing this. We're going to set 2. If they've got Heavy, they've got Heavy. And they do have Heavy. That's rough. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw Dark Sealed Fusion, which is pretty good. We're just going to bring in the Ragnarok now, attack in. I feel like this is fine. We get them on a bit of a clock. We got the Hex Sealed Fusion for later plays. We're going to set the meta because they've used up Heavy and MSD. If they've got Breaker here, I mean, if they got Breaker, they've got Breaker. But, like, I figure they've used up 2 of their ways to remove back row, so this should be pretty fine. They're going to go for Snatch, though, and then they're going to go for Mobius. That will pop the meta. Realistically, that meta wasn't really doing much for us anyways. I mean, we're at 100. If we draw, like, Serpent, the meta would have been really good to keep in hand, but we do not. We just draw Sidra, which will not quite do anything for us. We're going to bring out that Sidra. If we had Light Hex Sealed Fusion here, we could have gone for a big, like, Cyber Twin play, which would have been something. But since it's just dark, we got to set that pass back to our opponent there. And they're going to go over the Sidra with the Mobius. They'll clear that. They're going to set one, set another, pass back to us. We draw a Breaker here. We can't even summon that Breaker because that's threatening lethal damage to us. We're going to set the Breaker, pass back to them. They're going to flip the Spy, and they're going to bring in another Spy here. Now, we do survive if they hit in to the new set with the Mobius, but they hit into the old set with the Mobius. So they do hit over our Hex Sealed Fusion, and we will lose our Breaker as well. So that's going to do it here. Yeah, I don't really think there was a way we could have won this one. I mean, if we had been playing Light Hex Sealed Fusion instead of Dark Hex Sealed, even if they called back something, no, they still would have had, that would have been 800 damage. Then they would have had enough for BrainCon, so we would have lost here either way. But yeah, it's just quite unfortunate that the game turned out that way. But that's how it goes with this deck. I mean, this deck is very low resource a lot of the time, and because Dragon Mirrors can bring out the Dragoon, sometimes that doesn't matter, but if you can't get to the Dragoon or the BLS, then it really can matter, and you can be in a really, really tough spot. But that's going to do it for game 1. Let's dive into the next match that I got now. Okay, we got a game here against Rash Raiko, who I think this is their first time appearing on the channel, so pleasure to have them on. We're diving into the games, and we will be going second. We lost the die roll there. But this is a pretty decent opener. We got Duo, we got some Wind Blasts. I mean, it is awkward because, again, we don't really have the material for the Wind Blast, but we can search that out with Sangan. We drew Pod as well, so we really can't complain here. We're drawing into Raigeki Break and Ring. We're going to go for a Duo here, rip 2 cards out of their hand, and we're going to rip a TT. Okay, that's pretty good. And a Return. So they're on a bit of a Chaos-focused deck, probably. That's a bit interesting. We're going to set the Sangan, set the Raigeki Break, set the Ring, and pass back to them. I don't want to play into things like Heavy that much, and I feel like Raigeki Break is generally better than Wind Blast. Although maybe against the Chaos deck, you want the Wind Blast set as opposed to the Raigeki Break, but I think this is fine. They flip up a Dekoichi, summon out a Sangan, and now they attack into our Sangan. And we're going to search a Divine Dragon Ragnarok that can hit over the Dekoichi, so I'm fine to bring it out, attacking over the Dekoichi that way. It's also good discard fodder if I really want to. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw another Divine Dragon Ragnarok. So maybe I should have added the Sinister Serpent, because that wasn't also a potential option, given we've got so many discard traps here. But I figured it should be fine. Summing out this, attacking over the Dekoichi, and then setting the Wind Blast, passing back to them. They're just going to set one, switch the Sangan defense, pass back to us. We draw Heavy. A bit too late, but it is what it is. We set the Divine Dragon Ragnarok, switch our Divine Dragon Ragnarok to defense, pass back to them. We could have kept this Divine Dragon Ragnarok in hand as another discard fodder card, but I figure that Wind Blast and Heavy should be fine enough to discard. They're going to flip up this Dekoichi here, and now they're going to go for Pot. and that's going to be a bit rough for us. They bring out a Sidra here, get a search off their Sangan. Now they can clear our whole board. They're going to attack in to the Ragnarok here, and now they're going to attack in to the other Ragnarok, but we are just going to ring the Sidra. I don't want that sticking around. They can bring out a Chaos Monster now, which is a bit awkward, but we do have Wind Blast for the Chaos Monster to put it back on top of deck. They've only got that one light, so hopefully that should be good enough. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw Snatch Shield, which is pretty good. We're going to flip this Ragnarok. We're going to activate the Snatch Shield attack in here just to get in more damage, get in for half their life, but they've got a Mirror Force here, so that's a bit unfortunate. So we lose both of our cards, but it's not too terrible because they also lose their Dekoichi there. They're going to bring out a Tomato and just attack in with Tomato. That's fine. Or I guess we're going to break it. I don't know. I think in hindsight, this was probably fine. I could save the break for other things, but I think I also want to kind of clear away my back row here, so that way I can go for a heavy on their back row. But it is what it is. They are just going to pass back to us. We draw Meta, which isn't really useful now. We set the heavy because I'm figuring next turn we just use up our Wind Blast, and then we can just heavy their back row, and that's going to be pretty good. But they MST the heavy, so, you know, it is what it is. I guess it's 1-for-1 removal. It's not terrible, but, you know, it is what it is. They're going to bring out a Chaos Orc here, bring out a Spy as well, and we're just going to let this go through. We could potentially Wind Blast back the Chaos Orc, because then they don't have the light to bring it back. So that's something, but I feel like they're going for this play because they've got a ring. And if they've got a ring, I want them to use up the ring and chain Wind Blast to that, and then send back whatever they're trying to ring. But maybe this was a bit too greedy on my part, because we draw another meta, which is just the end of the game, because now they can just attack in with the Spy. And they're actually going to switch the Sork to defense, so I feel okay about that. But, you know, they go for a heavy here, so we've got to just heavy, or not heavy, we got to Wind Blast the Spy and hope they don't have another monster in hand. But if they do, and they do, then that will be the end of the game. So they can even go for the Stein play here, which they will do. And that will just be very much the end of the game. So if we had sent back the Sork, maybe things would have been different. But they had the Stein either way, so we would have lost that one in the end either way, I think. So it is what it is, though. That occasionally happens with this deck. Again, you know, you do go low resources, and if you don't get into your boss monster, it can be very difficult for you. So we are just going to set a Goat, set a Mirror Force here, pass back to them. I feel like this is a decent start. They're going to go for a Stein, just saying your back row's dead. And they're going to bring out a Twin here. Now they're going to attack in for a ton of damage, but we got the Mirror Force, so we're just going to use that. Pop their board. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw Dragon's Mirror, which is pretty good. We're just going to bring out this Hexial Fusion, get in for 1,000. We could have brought out the Tribe instead, but I feel like Tribe is a more high impact card that I want to save for later. So I'll just go for the Hex Shield now. Set a Regeki Break, pass back to them, and they are going to bring out a Sidra. Now they're going to banish a Light and a Dark for the Chaos Sork. This is a bit of a risk of going for Dark Hex Shields, that now we don't have our Fusion Material engraved. Now it's banished. So maybe a bit of a misplay there. We go for the Goat now, just to sort of get a bunch of tokens on field, so they can't hit into our life points. They're going to hit into one of the tokens, and they're going to pass back to us. We draw Call, which is okay, but we don't really have the best things to use with it. We're just going to use Prio here. We're going to call Spellcaster, pitching a Dragon's Mirror. We're going to pitch the other Dragon's Mirror to get rid of the Sidra, because I feel like we probably won't grind out enough to make those Dragon's Mirrors worth it, because we need to draw into 2 Fusion Materials, get those engraved somehow. By that point, we're probably winning the game anyways. So I figure Call could be a bit better for us. We keep the Call in hand because we got Break here. So we want a card in hand to pitch off that. They go for the Snatch. We could potentially go for Break on the Snatch, but I feel like it's fine just saving the Break for later, because we don't really care if they pop our cards here and get in, because, you know, we've got 8,000 life points. We're gaining 1,000 every turn off the Snatch. So realistically, this doesn't really matter that much. We draw BLS, which is pretty decent, but we don't really have a way to get super aggressive here. Like, we could break the Snatch and attack into the set, but I don't really want to do that because it's not threatening lethal. So I'm just going to keep things as they are. I'm going to keep the hand pretty much the same. And I'm just going to pass back to them, I believe. Yeah, because we don't really have anything in graveyard for our Call. And you won't want to play into, like, Mobius. So I feel like it's fine just keeping everything in hand here. We'll take another 16. That's perfectly fine. Because, you know, again, we are gaining back 1,000 every turn. And we're not really at a risky point. We're going to set this Phoenix Wind Blast, pass back to them. We can potentially use both of these cards if we want to now. But next turn, if they don't commit another monster to their field, we could potentially just use both of these and go for game. They do commit another monster to their field, though, so that complicates things a little bit. We do draw a Serpent here, so we could use that. We're just going to choose not to, setting a Call instead. Passing back to them, they've got a Spy here, so they're going to bring out another Spy. That's perfectly fine. They're getting in for a lot of damage here, but we do have a way to sort of counteract that if we get rid of the Snatch now. So we're going to get rid of that Snatch, pitching the Serpent, getting back our Tribe, and that does wall off their attackers, and now we can get in for lethal next turn if we want to. They're going to go for a Magician of Faith here, adding back that Snatch. They're going to go for the Snatch on the Tribe and just pass back to us. We gain 1,000 here. And also we can just send back the Snatch, so that's what we will do. We're going to bounce back that Snatch to the top of the deck after gaining our 1,000. Add back the Serpent, go for the Tribe, pitching the Serpent, because this does clear their board anyways, and if they do have a way to stop our Tribe, I just want to get the most value out of it as possible. And now we're going to attack in for 16 here, and they do have Mirror Force, but we do have the call to bring back the Tribe, and if that last back row isn't anything, we do win the game here. And it looks like that last back row is just a ring, which won't do anything for them here. So that's going to do it for game 2, and we actually were able to win that one. We weren't able to go into Dragoon, but we were able to still grind our way enough through that after the Stein activation went through. So our opponent is just going to set one and set another, pass back to us. That's pretty good. We decided into the full Dust Shoot Suite, or I think we have 2 Dust Shoots here. We decided into the full Dust Shoot Suite in game 2 because we knew we were going first. But here I still felt it was valuable to have Dust Shoots. I sided out of some of the metas, and I brought in more Sidras because I felt like the metas were dead game 1. So yeah, that was sort of my side decking tools here. I set Dust Shoot, MST, Break. I figure, you know, if they've got heavy set, they've outplayed us. If they've got heavy in hand, we're fine with that because, you know, our Raigeki Break's chainable. We don't really care too much about losing the MST, so I think this is fine. We go for the Dust Shoot now. We see they've got Econ, BLS, Mystic Tomato, Cyber Dragon, and Chaos Zork. Now, I could potentially send back the Cyber Dragon because they don't necessarily have another light here, but I don't want to leave them with the bomb of BLS in hand for if they do get into a light. So I think what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to send back the BLS because that card is just very, very scary. They do find some way to get a light into grave. So I'm just going to send that back. They're going to flip up a Dekoichi here, draw another. They're going to bring out the Exiled, which we do know that they drew because we've seen their hand off Dust Shoot. And we add a Ragnarok to hand because we already have the Serpent in hand. Ragnarok can beat over the Dekoichi, and so we feel fine about this. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We know that that is the Econ here. We draw a Sidra of our own. We're just going to bring that out and try and bait out the Econ. If this does bait out the Econ, it's a bit awkward for them because they could like tribute over the Dekoichi for the Sidra. But if they don't do that, then they can't actually clear the Sidra. So they do have this Saku here, so that will clear the Sidra that way. We don't really feel the need to bring out a Ragnarok because I feel like our life points are in an okay spot. So they're going to go for a Tomato here. We pitch the Serpent off the Raigeki Break. They're going to attack in for 14. That's perfectly fine. They're sending another pass back to us. We draw a BLS. We actually do have a Light and Dark Engraved to bring this out if we want to. But we want to save it for a bit of a later point to be a bit of a bigger bomb. We could have gone for it, tried to attack over the Koichi. But, I mean, they've got Econ, so I can stop that. So I don't necessarily want to do that. They're going to go for Econ, switching our Ragnarok to defense, and we are perfectly fine with that. They're going to attack over the Ragnarok here, get in grave, and then pass back to us. We draw Dark Hex Field Fusion, so we can actually go for a Dragon's Mirror play, and that's what we will do here. We're going to set the Dark. We're going to go for the Banish, and now we get to bring out this Dragoon. We're going to attack over the Dekoichi with the Dragoon, and now they're in a bit of a tough spot. We could have also potentially gone for a BLS here, but we don't want them to do, like, you know, if they've got more Econs, we don't want them to bring out a monster Econ, take our BLS, attack over the Dragoon, get in for damage that way. So I feel like this is fine, just leaving it like this. They also do... Oh, they don't have Light and Dark Engraved yet, but they will be getting it soon. They go for Duo, though, and that's really unfortunate. We wanted this BLS in hand, but... I mean, it's rough. I mean, at least we have the Serpent coming back. They're going to go for Will here as well, attack into our Dragoon. So they do get to bring out another card on top of this. They're going to bring out the Sangan. And I think that's ultimately fine. I mean, they do still have more than enough to Stein, which is awkward. So I don't even know if I necessarily want to hit into that Sangan. I'm going to MST their back row. And now I'm just going to pass back to them. I didn't want them to, like, blind MST our new set because I feel like Raigeki Break is very, very important in this position in case they do go for, like, a Stein play or something. They're going to banish Light and Dark, go for BLS. This makes me very happy that I have the break set. We go for the break here, pop the BLS, and, yeah, they're going to pass back to us. And I'm very glad I MST'd as well because what they could have done later is they could have gone for a Sork, banishing the BLS as well, and they can actually special summon the BLS off the... return because it's been properly summoned. So we get to add back that Serpent yet again. We have a pre-mat now, so we could potentially go for pre-matting back a Sidra or a Sangan and getting in for a fair bit of damage here to cut them off of Stein. That is indeed what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for the Sangan instead of the Sidra because I figure if they try and clear this, then we get a search, or they have to bring out Sork and banish the Sangam, which is a bit awkward for them. But I feel like either way, I'm fine with that. We're going to attack in for 24, and now they're below Stein range, so I'm feeling really good. They're going to set one, they're going to banish the Light and Dark, go for the Sork here, get rid of our Sangan that way. But again, I was kind of anticipating this, so I'm fine with that turn of events. We're going to attack into the Sork there with the Dragoon. We're going to set this ring, pass back to them. We want to bluff that we have like Phoenix from Windblast or Raigeki Break, etc. So I feel like this is fine. They're going to go for a Graceful here, draw 3, pitch 2. They're going to pitch an X Head Cannon and a Serpent. X Head Cannon, very, very neat tech in this format. They're going to go for a heavy. We could potentially ring our own Dragoon, but that just puts us dead to a lot of things, so I don't want to do that. So they're going to bring out a Spy off their Spy here, and then they're going to tribute that for a Mobius. They're going to attack into our Dragoon. This does clear it, you know. I mean, this does work because it crashes. They should have saved the pre-mat for if they crashed with the Dragoon. But I felt like getting in that damage to get them out of Stein range was more important. We draw a Call anyway, so that'll be able to bring back the Dragoon. So I feel fine about that. We're just going to set the Serpent, set the Call in case they've got some way to clear the Call. I want to protect my life points here. They're going to add back that Serpent. And now they're going to go for a Stein. Stein's just going to hit over the Serpent, and that's fine. We can get in a ton of damage next turn. We draw TT, which is pretty good. We could potentially save the TT for, you know, when they summon another card here. And like before we do our Call the Haunted Dragoon, because TT kind of conflicts with Dragoon. But I still feel like it's better just to bring out the Dragoon here, attack over their Cyberstein, and just pass back to them, set one pass. I forgot to add back the Serpent in the standby phase there. That was a misplay. I don't think it's a major misplay though. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a pot here. We're going to add back that Serpent. We finally remembered here. We're going to go for pot, draw 2. We draw Duo. That's pretty decent here, but they've only got one card in hand. It might be the Serpent, so I don't necessarily want to go for that. I'm going to attack over their Spy because it's guaranteed to clear it. We set the Scapegoat here, pass back to them. And we have DB issues, but luckily it's resolved very quickly. They are going to tribute over this Serpent for the Jinzo there, and Jinzo will unfortunately also be able to crash with the Dragoon. So that is rough. We lose our Dragoon and the Call. They set one, pass back to us. There's 1,600 though, so honestly, we're just going to go for Serpent beats. We summon that Serpent, attack in for 300, and now we just pass back to them. We've already got a Scapegoat set, so we can use that later. If they go for Duo on this hand, I mean, they've used up Duo already, but they'll have to, like, Magician of Fate it back. If they do want to do that, then we're fine losing this hand. So I'm fine, you know, keeping things as they are here. Anyways, they'll be out of Duo range very soon. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw Dragon's Mirror, but we don't quite have the material for it engraved, so quite unfortunate there. But we're going to attack over their set with the Serp, and we knew that was a Serpent, which is why we did this. We want to keep them off of Monarchs. They're going to add back that Serpent, and they're just going to set the Serpent, pass back to us. I mean, they could have set something else, but, you know, it's very likely the Serpent. We just switched the Serpent to defense because in case it's not the Serpent, we don't want to take a ton of damage here. We do see that they're on Spies. There still is one Spy left. So, you know, if that's Spy, we don't want to take 17. And we're going to pass back to them. They do have Zaborg. That'll pop our Servant. We're perfectly fine with that. They're going to attack him with the Zaborg. We do have this Scapegoat here. They might choose to not attack over one of our tokens, just to sort of lock our zones a little bit. But, you know, we do have freedom to summon out something here. So, you know, I'm fine with this. And there is also the argument that we should have TT'd before going for Scapegoat. But I've got another Scapegoat in hand, so I feel like it's fine going for the Scapegoat here and saving the TT for later. We get back the Serpent in standby. We will Wind Blast that Zaborg, so that way we get back the Serpent here. We can keep pressing the offensive with that Serpent there. We do have Sidra for follow-up plays later as well, which is pretty fun. But we're going to attack in for 300, set one, pass back to them. And we know that the draw this turn is Zaborg, so we know their hand is Zaborg Serpent. They're going to set one, go for a Snatch on our token, and meta that away. And they're going to go into a Thousand Eyes. We're just going to TT this because Thousand Eyes is really annoying to deal with. We don't really have the best ways to deal with it here. So I figure TTing this board is better than nothing. And they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Raigeki Break here. That's pretty good. Now we can bring out the Serpent here, attack in for 300. Just keep the aggressive pressure going. And now we're going to set this Raigeki Break, pass back to them. We know Zaborg's in hand. If they go like Sidra, Zaborg, that's fine because they're popping a Serpent here. So I'm not too concerned about this. They're going to add back the Serpent here. And now they're going to go Banish the Light and Dark for a Chaos Orc. That's very unfortunate here. We do lose our Serpent here, which is our recurable resource, which we really did want to keep here. Now they're going to set one, pass back to us. Luckily, we can hit over that Sork with the Sidra here. So we're going to try and do that. But unfortunately, they've got a Mirror Force here. So that's pretty rough. We could have maybe Raigeki Break to their back row before going for this play. But I felt like Raigeki Break's more flexible than that. So I don't know. Maybe I should have done that. I mean, they've got Zaborg in hand anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. So, yeah, I feel like this was fine. This does bait out the back row. They're going to run X-headed cannon attack in for 18. We do have another scapegoat here, so we'll be able to protect ourselves a little bit further. We have used up TT already, so we can't do anything like that. And they can just feel fine just selling out cards every turn. They're going to banish a token with the Sork here. We draw Ragnarok, which is okay. We're going to go for duo on the hand because we don't want them bringing out Zaborg and getting even more aggressive. We're just going to set this Ragnarok as a bluffer, or not as a bluffer, as a blocker, pass back to them. Then we can Dragon's Mirror later, potentially, hopefully. If we draw into Hex Field Fusion, we can get our Dragon's Mirror, and that would be very, very good for us. They're going to Sork banish one of our tokens. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw Morphing Jar. This does give us a bit of a choice here because we could, either way we're setting Morphing Jar, but we could here also potentially set Morphing Jar Dragon's Mirror. And the reason we wouldn't do this is because then it shuts off our Geki Break. But I do feel like, you know, Dragon's Mirror is a way that we're winning this at the end of the game. And we've already used up one. We don't necessarily have guaranteed odds of drawing another. And I don't think they can kill us here. We know one of the sets is Serpent. They've got an empty hand. We'll have 2 monsters on field. And, you know, they can't get over Morphing Jar with the Serpent. So, yeah, I feel fine. And we also got Mirror Force as well. So, I feel okay setting the Morphing Jar, setting the Dragon's Mirror, passing back to them. Unfortunately for us, they've got the Magician of Faith here to add back the Heavy. So that will wipe our entire board there. And yeah, that's very unfortunate for us. They're going to tribute for a Cyber Dragon. They're going to get in, and this should be lethal because Cyber Dragon plus the Chaos Orc will be lethal damage here. So that's quite rough. I mean, we took a gamble there. It didn't pay off. But that's how it goes sometimes. We do draw 5. They also draw 5. And that would have been a pretty good follow-up hand, honestly, if we had survived here. But, I mean, what would they have drawn? They would have drawn a pretty good hand as well with Econ and other things. So, yeah, I think we were probably going to lose this one either way, despite them having only 700 life points. I mean, Tribe, I guess, can clear their board and get in. But, like, they've got Econ. They've got Scapegoat. So, it's not guaranteed. I don't know. Yeah, I think we majorly misplayed by setting the Mirror. But, again, they needed a specific set of cards to actually, you know, pull that off. And unfortunately, they did have that. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think about the deck and the games down in the comments below. I'm sure I misplayed in other places as well. And also, again, there are many, many other ways to build this deck, and definitely better ways than the way I built it. So let me know how you would build this deck down in the comments below. If you like this sort of content, definitely subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 1,400 subscribers by the end of the month, and we're almost there. We're 10 away. So with your help, we can get there, and I'd really like to reach that goal. If you want to support me directly, I have a Patreon as well, link to the description down below. And if you join the Patreon, you get a shout out on these videos. So big shout outs to Dumptruck, GMYFS, Rinswin, Porkchopkin, Brendan Donker, and Tyler Confident. It means a lot that you all support me in this way, and it motivates me to make more videos like this. If you want to play games in Cyber format or any other format that I feature on the channel, definitely head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server, linked in the description down below. Great place to find games in these formats, and also you can join in on the weekly locals and the monthly tournaments that we hold there. But I hope you enjoyed this as always. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.